All right, OpenAI is in deep trouble on all sides. We're watching a massive collapse happen in real time this week, and almost nobody's connecting the dots on how bad this really is. So you have Nvidia and SoftBank reportedly freezing investments because the math is no longer mathing. And now you have DeepSeek eating OpenAI's lunch with a model that costs a fraction of the price, while OpenAI screams that they're being robbed because they're stealing from them, which is super ironic because, OpenAI stole from everybody else. Right. So the most terrifying thing we saw of all is we just saw a resignation letter from a top safety researcher at Anthropic that explicitly says the world is in peril. That's literally word for word. And so all of these big frontier models are starting to really ignore a lot of the safety problems to be at this dead sprint to beat each other. So if you thought the AI wars were just getting started, you're wrong. The first empire is already starting to crumble, and we're going to walk through some of the massive red flags exploding right now that shows why OpenAI and the current AI hype cycles are in some deep, deep trouble. Let's jump into this today. Welcome to Startup Hack. I'm Spencer, and here at Startup Hack, we love to build custom software solutions for companies. With a decade of executive leadership as a fractional CTO and 25 years in software development, I've mastered transforming tech teams and products. All right, guys, I've been writing code for a long time, and I've seen bubbles and trends come and go. But what's happening this week this week is unlike anything that I've seen before. So the unlimited money spigot just got turned off, and the insiders are all running for the exits. See, we're going to dive right into why OpenAI is in some massive trouble this week. All right, let's take a look here. And as always, the best compliment you can give me before I dive into this is to leave a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys and what you guys are thinking on this. So as you guys have a thought, throw it down in the comments for me, because honestly, best compliment you can give me. All right, so this is from a couple of weeks ago, but I'm going to bear with me here, right? Nvidia shares are down after a report that its OpenAI investment stalled. Here's what's happening, right? So Nvidia shares slipped, this is, like a week or so ago, but after a deal between the chip giant and OpenAI appears to be in question, the tech giant has announced plans in September to invest up to $100 billion in the AI startup. However, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang recently criticized OpenAI's business strategy and cast doubts on how much will be invested. You're in trouble. Right, okay. Let's take a look here on some of this next one. Now, the next part of this is that the Q3 earnings for SoftBank comes out. And one of the big parts of this is that as they go through, we see that, it could be one of the, it's talking about that AI could be one of the pillars of of the industry. But the real big news here is what we hear from Gary, right? So OpenAI may turn out to be the WeWork of AI, and we're at least decades from solving AI, right? Will OpenAI someday be seen as the WeWork of AI? As he suggested many times as early as 2023. If you follow Gary, you know that he certainly has no love lost for OpenAI, right? But you already knew that. Here's the kicker. Up until now, one of the biggest investors in OpenAI was Masa Son, who was the biggest investor in WeWork just before it fell, and this dropped, right? SoftBank CEO just dropped this today in earnings call. Nothing has been decided about additional funding rounds in OpenAI, right? So Gary says his jaw dropped when he read this. Ouch, nothing's been decided. It's hardly a vote of confidence, especially coupled with Nvidia's walk back a week earlier. So their two largest investors have now backed out and softened. Now, when they say this publicly, it means that they're willing to say they're walking away, because this is that's huge against OpenAI. This really can be very deal breaking. Now, we're seeing a lot of different stuff here, and they're starting to come from inside the house. This is from Morning Brew, right? The AI warnings are coming from inside the house. Meanwhile, OpenAI and Anthropic are two minds on how much to regulate the industry, right? So it's as if a bunch of AI experts just had the same nightmare, because this week, several of them, including one of Anthropic's and OpenAI, seemingly jolted upright in a cold sweat to speak on the horrors they see coming from AI, right? So we're definitely seeing a huge hit from a lot of these guys doing this. So Anthropic, the company behind Claude, lost its head of safeguard research, who announced his resignation in a letter. And I'm going to go through that letter with you because it's actually pretty crazy. In his letter, he mentions that the world is in peril. Speaking vaguely about Anthropic, he wrote, Throughout my time here, I've repeatedly seen how hard it is to truly let our values govern our actions. We constantly face pressure to set aside what matters most. Now, OpenAI's alarm bells came from 3 different employees this week. A researcher quit after 2 years due to deep reservations about ChatGPT's new ad strategy. A top safety executive was fired after opposing the upcoming release of AI erotica. And in a post on X that alluded to widespread job loss, an engineer wrote, "I finally feel the existential threat that AI is posing," right? Now, the threat that AI is posing right now is on the people working in OpenAI because there's a ton of money, possibly problems coming. Now, Anthropic did just close a big round, $30 billion on 380 valuation. I think this is going to be, I think they were grabbing this while the going was good. I think this is one of the last rounds they're going to see, but I think they have a path to profitability. OpenAI, as we know, has nowhere near the path to profitability. And I think we're going to see the time of reckoning really start to come. Let's go into this. This is another one. So OpenAI now is crying. OpenAI has warned the U.S. lawmakers that its Chinese rival DeepSeek is using unfair and increasingly sophisticated methods to extract results from leading US AI models to train the next generation of its breakthrough R1 chatbot. Okay, let me break this down for you here. They're using a technique. I love pop-ups; they're my favorite. They're using a technique called warned this lawmaker, next generation. All right, let's go into this memo. In the memo sent Thursday to the House Select Committee on China, OpenAI said that DeepSeek had used so-called distillation techniques as part of ongoing efforts to free ride on the capabilities developed by OpenAI and other U.S. frontier labs. The company said it has detected new obfuscated methods designed to evade OpenAI's defenses against misuse of its model output. So essentially what they do is they spend a bunch, but nowhere near the cost of training. So training is super expensive. So they spend a bunch and they use the OpenAI API, they use the chatbot, and they do stuff, and they sit there and basically just strip out data. And they use it at such a high level that the distillation actually gets it to kind of barf out a lot of its training material. So they can actually use it to train their own model in a way. And so it's a way to kind of cheat off their neighbor's homework, right? It's kind of them looking over at their neighbor going, oh, that's what he put down on the test. So it's kind of that. And they're saying, hey, like all this money we've spent on inference and training, it's not fair because they're stealing from us. Now, the irony to this is that if you think about it, where did OpenAI get all this? They scraped the internet, they scraped Reddit, they stole from libraries. They we know that they've all downloaded every single torrent possible out there. Then they train their models on top of this, right? This is what, and all the frontier models do it. I can't necessarily just blame OpenAI for this, but it's funny that now OpenAI is the one saying, but mom, this isn't fair, because like, this is like essentially what they're doing. And they're saying, that they're going to lose to DeepSeek, and the DeepSeek's going to beat them. And they're actually looking, and so this is, in my opinion, the very first of the early cries of them saying the U.S. government needs to kind of bail us out because we got to beat China. We got to beat China. It's so important that we need them to bail us out. See, I think they know the gravy train is running. So distillation, largely tied to China and occasionally Russia, has persisted and become more sophisticated despite attempts to crack down on users who violate OpenAI's terms of service. The company said in its memo, since DeepSeek and other Chinese models don't carry a monthly subscription cost, the prevalence of distillation could pose a business threat to American companies such as OpenAI and Anthropic. OpenAI also highlighted other national security risks raised by DeepSeek. And see, they're just trying to say, like, look, these guys aren't safe. These guys are safe. You better bail us out. You better give us all this money so we can beat them, right? And that's what we're starting to already start to see from this. And so this problem here that we're seeing with the distillation is just OpenAI starting to already, cry foul on this, right? Now, this is what I was actually thinking we were reading here in this order, but this is the letter from, so Mayank Sharma when he left Anthropic. And I kind of want to go through this a little bit too, because some of the words that he uses in here are pretty interesting as we look into this, because he talked a lot about his warnings that we could be in peril, that very seriously we're at a very, there's a interconnected crisis unfolding at this very moment, right? We appear to be approaching a threshold where our wisdom must grow in equal measure to our capacity to affect the world. Now, as we know, AI brings you a lot of information. It does not bring you wisdom. And that's one of the big things that we're seeing here. And we're seeing that inflection of moment here. And so we're seeing concerns from safety security people, safety security specialists. We're seeing a lot of people who are warning us. And, they're saying, and now OpenAI is, warning DeepSeek has come out of nowhere to release a model that's going to beat GPT, which isn't a big shock, right? Now, they were shocked the first time, but the second time around, we won't see it as quite as shocking, right? OpenAI is furious because they claim that DeepSeek is using distillation techniques, which is effectively learning from OpenAI's own outputs to train their cheaper models. So the market is realizing that if a Chinese startup can clone your moat for pennies on the dollars, you don't actually have a moat. This price war is a race to the bottom that OpenAI, with its massive overhead, bloated operation costs, they simply cannot afford this, and that's where we're going to see some huge trouble coming, right? Now, we also just saw the bombshell resignation letter from Mr. Sharma, a core safety researcher at Anthropic, and his language that he's using is terrified. He says the world is in peril, and he linked it to the very technology that they're building. A couple of more quotes. He's mentioned that he intended to, quote, create space to set aside the structures that have held me, signaling a deep misalignment with a corporate race for AI dominance. So this isn't just one disgruntled employee. It's a signal that the people building these godlike systems don't trust the companies running them. So if the safety team is leaving because they think the world is in danger, this is a bigger red flag that you could probably drive at. Now, it's part of the reason why here at Startup Hack, we love to build on AI, but we do it responsibly. We build out SaaS systems, kind of like these ones you see over my shoulders here. We build in using open source LLMs that we can build in for specific use and train to be used in a very specific set. The problem is when you're trying to build a godlike AI, AGI system, like what we have with these large scale models, the frontier models, we're seeing this problem where the safety is second to trying to beat benchmarks, right? So between the safety resignations and the scraping scandals, the governance chaos, nobody's really trusting OpenAI's leadership right now, right? It's one of the big things. Enterprises are looking at this chaos and deciding to go with open source models like us, where we can use these and then have control over them. See, OpenAI, Anthropic, a lot of these, they're black boxes, right? You get what you get, you don't throw a fit. That's like what I tell my kids all the time, right? Except my kids are a little older for that now. But I used to say that, we'll say. But so that's kind of the problem with these models, is you can't really get to pick and choose what is done with your data, as well as also how they behave. Now, OpenAI is crying to the government about DeepSeek, and it's going to backfire because they're inviting massive regulations onto themselves. By admitting that distillation is a threat, they're admitting that the technology is easy to proliferate and impossible to control. So governments are reading these resignation letters about the world in peril and realizing that they need to step in hard and fast, and nobody in the AI space wants this. They're effectively inviting the fox into the henhouse because they're terrified of the competition. Now, we're finally arriving at the moment where the rubber meets the road, and the math isn't mathing on the business models around OpenAI. And I've been talking about it here on the channel for a long time. But the combination of funding frenzy, safety whistleblowers, and cheap competitors, this is the perfect storm for a collapse. We're moving from the promise phase of AI to the delivery phase, and the delivery is underwhelming. And right now we're finding out that it's pretty dangerous. OpenAI is looking a lot less like the next Google and more like the next WeWork, right? It was overvalued, it was overhyped, and it burned cash. So the smart money is moving into specialized, efficient, and safe AI, not these massive black boxes that could, really cause some damage, but instead of using basic software principles around some really powerful technology, these LLMs that are open source, you can do amazing things with them. So I have a whole playlist full of how you can build a cheap AI server, how you can train it yourself, how you can build software around it, and all that you can then control. See, these systems are getting so large and so massive that they're literally out of control. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is the beginning of the end for OpenAI? If OpenAI doesn't pivot hard, and the next pivot though is we're seeing them start to chase the revenue, which is where they're bringing ads in, and that's why this is really going to get dangerous quick. Because as soon as money starts to drive those decisions even harder, I'm afraid that power will turn into some really evil things. Now, I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to have a great conversation. So make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure to leave a comment down below. Here at Startup Hack, we love to build custom software solutions for companies. So check out some of the information about our services. Hi, I'm Spencer, a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership and 25 years in software development, I've transformed technology teams and products for businesses just like yours. As your fractional CTO, you get the strategic guidance of a seasoned technology executive without the full-time commitment. Perfect for companies ready to leverage cutting-edge technology without expanding headcount. My team at Startup Hack has already built advanced AI agents for small and medium businesses, automating complex workflows and delivering advanced ROI to human workflows. We specialize in creating custom software that connects your systems into a single coherent technology ecosystem. Our development approach focuses on tangible business outcomes. For one client, we developed AI-powered workflows that cut days off of human processes. For another company, by connecting multiple systems, we reduced processing time to increase their ROI by over 75%. We don't just write code, we architect solutions that scale. Whether you need cloud system architecture, data integration between legacy systems, or custom AI agents that automate your unique business processes, my team delivers results that exceed your expectations. Having led technology for a lot of companies and launched 7 successful brands of my own, I bring battle-tested expertise to your business challenges. Our specialty is turning technological complexity into business advantage. So if you're ready to harness the power of AI and custom software to drive your business forward, let's connect. Together, we'll build technology that doesn't just solve today's problems, it positions you for tomorrow's opportunities. Technology leadership, decades of experience, AI powered. Reach out today and we can help you. Check out startuphack.com/Spencer.